homesteading to prepping to common horse sense, we are College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Today we're getting rid of blossom end rot, or affectionately referred to as BER. Blossom end rot is caused by the inability of a plant to take up enough calcium. Now, there are a lot of reasons that a plant might have a problem taking up calcium. There's too much nitrogen in the soil. Nitrogen bonds and keeps that calcium tied up. Too much acid in the soil. Acid will react with calcium hydroxide, which calcium ions, if you go back to your high school chemistry, calcium ions are the way it's transported in liquid. So too much acidity in the soil will move that backwards, and we're going to go over that in just a minute. The plant could have a calcium channel problem brought on by erratic watering and just inavailability of calcium in the soil could be another one. All of it goes back to your high school chemistry. Now, some folks are going to say that it's a watering problem, but it's not just a watering problem. It's the availability of calcium for the plant to use. So we're going to talk about that. Let's go have a look at the chemistry that's required for your plant to uptake calcium. Alright, let's look at our high school chemistry. When you've got calcium or magnesium or cadmium or any of those, sodium, any of these cations, any of these trace elements, okay, there could be more, there's manganese and iron, and there's all kinds of these trace elements that your plants are going to want to uptake. Now, calcium that's in your soil, 2+, calcium 2+, it's in your soil, is what the plant has to uptake to defeat blossom end rot. Now, there are a lot of things. There was a study that showed that there are a lot of things that can interfere with that. One of them was fertilizer. Fertilizer comes in the form of NH4, NO3, or in other words, ammonium nitrate. Okay, this is fertilizer, and it breaks up into two NH4 plus and NO3 minus. It breaks up into that in water, and what happens is these cations need to be transferred. Water, of course, is a dipolar molecule. Over here is a partial negative charge. Over here is a partial positive charge, going back to your high school chemistry. So these cations, like calcium and ammonium and hydronium, acid, are attracted to the water, and the water attaches onto those. The water attaches onto them, creating a way to transport that, and it would take two of these waters attached to that calcium. Okay, so you got the partial negatives there. It would take two of those waters that attach to that calcium so that it could be transported into the plant. Well, one of the problems is in calcium uptake. Let's say you've got water molecules, and you've got 6 or 7 of them, okay? Not a whole bunch of water molecules, but you've got 6 or 7. Well, those 6 or 7 water molecules, in case there's not enough water, a lot of the studies have found that the watering is inconsistent, and that can lead to BER. Well, the reason it leads to BER is because the number of cations in the soil. So calcium is one of those cations. Magnesium is one of those cations. Ammonium is one of those cations. Okay, does that make sense? Hydronium is one of those cations. There's a whole bunch of others. I could just keep listing them here. Lithium and iron. There's a whole bunch of them. Now, if there's a limited amount of water, and you've got to look at the way the water transports, then the water is going to have an effect here of not having enough calcium. See, because if we've only got, let's say we've got 6 things, we can only, or 3 water molecules, it can only pick up 3 of these. Do you see where we're going? So if you want to increase the chances of getting calcium up to your plant and inhibiting BER, you need to add more calcium. Okay? That increases the chance of overcoming the channel block from all of these other elements, especially high nitrogen fertilizers and acidic soil. Okay, does that make sense? Now, one of the things about lime is calcium hydroxide. Now, calcium hydroxide is not very soluble. Okay? As a matter of fact, calcium hydroxide is listed as insoluble, but insoluble is a level of degrees. If you take lime and put it into water, eventually it will get to a saturation point in the water, a maximum amount of lime that can be in the water. So if we look at it that way, then if we want to increase the amount of calcium in our water, if we want to increase the amount of calcium in the water, then we have to increase the amount of calcium overall. Because if you have 1 mole here, you only get 1 mole of calcium there. If you get 4 moles here, you may only get 1 mole there, or half a mole, or whatever. If you've got 1 here, you may only get 1/10 of a mole over there. But if you make it 4, you get 4/10. Does that make sense? So if you increase the amount of calcium available, you increase the number of calcium cations that can be uptaken by the plant. To do that, you can add lime. Now, some people say that adding lime will affect your soil pH. It definitely will. This is called hydroxide. Okay? That's called hydroxide. On our pH scale, pH, a standard pH is 7. Okay? The scale goes all the way to 14 and all the way down to 1. This is acid or hydronium, acid soil, and this is alkaline or basic soil. Okay? And if you'll just notice, those 2 things are HOH, H2O. Okay? They're the broken apart water molecules. Now, in my soil, I know that my soil pH is 6.2. Okay, it's a little on the acidic side. So by adding lime, and the amount of lime that I'm going to add may raise my soil pH an extra 0.2 points. It still won't bring me up to the neutral. I'll still be a little bit on the acidic side. But I will have added a lot of calcium to that. So while adding lime may change the pH of my soil a little, it changes the amount of calcium available a lot. So adding lime is not going to hurt my plants, but it could definitely help them. So it might help them overcome blossom end rot. And as a matter of fact, on my property, and I don't have low calcium, on my property, the addition of lime, I don't never get blossom end rot. Without the addition of lime, I almost inevitably get blossom end rot. Okay, you saw how the chemistry works. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a calcium supplement to our plants. Now here on our homestead, we get blossom end rot if we don't do this. We do not have a calcium deficiency. Let me say that again. Most land in the United States does not have a calcium deficiency. If you've got limestone anywhere around your property, you probably do not have a calcium deficiency. A lot of the little rocks that we dig up in our garden are limestone. So we don't have a calcium deficiency. But we do have a problem with uptake of calcium. And you saw how you can eliminate that. Now what I've got here, this is called hydrated lime. Now hydrated lime is a slaked lime that's already had water added to it. And what happens is if you take slaked lime and you add water, it heats up to 140, 150 degrees. It gets hot. So if you do that, you get hydrated lime as the result. Now hydrated lime is basically calcium hydroxide. So calcium hydroxide is partially insoluble, and you saw that in the video about adding lime to your soil. So now the type of lime I have here is hydrated lime, and it's powdery. See here, it's just a powder. Now I've got on a glove. I normally don't wear gloves to apply this. I just apply it with my hands. But since we're going to do this with on video, I'm going to wear a glove. The reason being, some people can be sensitive to that lime. You know, lime's an additive in concrete. Okay? You can add lime and concrete, cement, Portland cement, together and make a type of mortar. Okay? Or a whitewash or a stucco, or there's all kinds of things you do with lime, and that can be kind of caustic. Cement itself is kind of caustic. So I'm going to go ahead and wear a glove. Normally it doesn't bother me. My grandmother would mix her bug dust with lime when she dusted her potatoes or dusted her beans or whatever. She mixed it with lime and then spread it with her hands. But her old hands were pretty tough because she raised what she lived on. So let's get over here to the tomatoes. You can have this problem on tomatoes, peppers, and squash. Okay, you can have blossom end rot problems on tomatoes, peppers, and squash. Now, I generally don't have the problem on peppers and squash. I only have the problem on tomatoes. So let's get over here to the aromas. And the aromas are just exactly like the determinants and indeterminants. I treat them exactly the same when it comes to blossom end rot. Okay, here we are at the very beginning of my row. Now, you'll notice that these tomatoes, I don't know how well you can see it, but they're just starting to bloom. It's that time that I like to apply lime to the tomatoes. I wait until they start to bloom in order to do this, so that I know that the calcium is going to be available to them for the whole time that they're fruiting. So if I put it on too early, it's like they don't absorb it as well. If I put it on too late, I get blossom end rot in the first flush. Okay? So I want to put it on now when the blooms are just setting on. And all you have to do is I take about that much and I put it right between each plant. And that's it. There's enough there. I'll put some on the other side of that one. it will not burn your plants. Okay? It won't burn your plants. So I put a little bit of that at each one. I'll go down the row and put a little bit at each plant. And that's a whole lot of calcium if you think about the calcium ions. There's a lot of calcium right there. So that's how you prevent blossom end rot. Now I've got 200 tomatoes to do that to this morning. Okay, I've put on all of the lime. I had about 150 tomato plants in bloom, so that's who got the lime. I've probably got another 70 plants that are not blooming yet, so they'll get lime when they bloom. Now, also I didn't mention that the eggplant here has had a problem with blossom end rot. So I went ahead and added some lime to my eggplant, even though they're not blooming yet. I just went ahead and added a little, it'll help them grow. Now, if you like this stuff, this homestead and do-it-yourself kind of thing, come on out to the channel and subscribe. If you get to the channel and hit the little bell, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload every Sunday, sometimes 1, sometimes 5 videos. It just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. And now, with that being said, it's time for me to get on to the next thing.